Hey guys, and welcome to my book talk of the Mara Dyer trilogy. I've been asked multiple times, I guess one of is upside down, to do this whole trilogy book talk because apparently there aren't that many on BookTube and people want them because people want to discuss this whole amazing trilogy. The Mara Dyer trilogy talks about Mara Dyer, a girl who ends up in an asylum with her friend, but then it collapses and they all die except for her. So she goes through this traumatic event and then her family ends up moving to Florida. Since then, she's been witnessing some very weird things that have been happening around her, people dying that she died in the way that she visualized in her head and all these creepy things. And then there's this really awesome British guy that enters the scene in this book when she goes to school. These books are so creepy, they're so good. They kept me up all night reading because I could not stop. The Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, I have to say, when I first read it, I was so confused. I didn't know what was going on. And honestly, I was just like, okay, maybe I should stop reading this book because what's the point? But halfway through, when things finally start falling into place, you're like, holy crap. What am I reading? This is so good. When I first finished it, I ended up giving it 4 stars, but then after a couple of weeks when I still could not stop thinking about it, I bumped it up to 5. And for the release of The Retribution of Mara Dyer, I ended up rereading The Unbecoming as well as The Evolution, and they're even better than the first times that I've read them. Like, they're so good. So, the book talk. Character-wise, Mara Dyer is such an unreliable character. Especially in the first book, you don't know what she's thinking or seeing are actual real-life events or hallucinations, and that's what makes it so thrilling and scary and creepy because you're like, I love you, Mara Dyer, but I don't know if you need help or if this is what's happening in real life, and if it is, then that's even creepier because how did you just imagine that person dying that way and then the next day they died the exact same way? I just love Michelle Hodkin and the way she writes the books and how she keeps them suspenseful, but at the same time she doesn't make you frustrated in terms of not finding out what was going on, because a lot of the times authors keep a lot from you and they don't give you anything, and the whole time you're like, I don't know why she's doing this, like, I need to know what's going on and stuff, and you end up flipping through the other pages because you're like, I don't know what's going on. But for this, she gives you a bit, but not too much, to keep you going, which is what I love about this whole trilogy. To keep it specific on The Retribution of Mara Dyer, apparently, I didn't even know that, some people weren't that happy with this book, and the beginning is going to be non-spoiler, and then I'll go into the spoiler section to discuss things. But non-spoiler wise, I was so freaking scared to pick this book up because I know Michelle Hodkin isn't afraid to kill characters, to leave us in a sad ending, especially since it took her 2 years to write this, because in the first year she ended up writing the whole book, but then she wasn't happy with it. So she asked her publisher to give her an extra year to rewrite the book. She did. She ended up trashing the first one and rewriting the book from the beginning to the end. Until now, I'm so curious on what she wrote in the first book and how it ended, but at the same time, I don't want to know if it ends in like a really sad way, so I'm happy with the way this book ended. That was one of my biggest fears. Second thing is, in here, Mara Dyer really grows into herself. She becomes more independent, stronger, smarter, and just, she becomes kick butt, I feel. The first 2 books, she always gets the help of Noah to help her things and stuff, but this book, I won't say she's alone, but she is alone, especially in the beginning, so she makes all the decisions herself, and without anyone telling her what is right and what is wrong. It is finally the book where she decides, and she has to face the consequences of her decision. And that's what I really loved about this book. There's a good character development, especially for Mara Dyer from the first book to the last one, and I love that. There are so many good scenes in this book with Mara Dyer and how she ends up handling some situations, especially the situation in this bathroom scene. I won't be discussing it here, I will be discussing it in the spoiler section. I just really love it. Also, one thing to note, I love the friendships in this book. There is a guy called Jamie, and you are introduced to him in the Unbecoming of Mara Dyer, and he still stays with us in this book, and he is so good. I love his banter between him and Mara, and I love their friendship, and she still ends up leaning on him even though she's still independent and makes her own decision, and I love that about her. I love that she's not that type of main protagonist where they're like, no, I can do everything on my own, I don't need any help. At the same time, she's not the type that is a damsel in distress. The sequence of events, or the plot, I know some people, that's what really annoyed some people, but I felt like it was very necessary in terms of giving Mara Dyer the chance to handle things on her own, and everything kind of went down in this book. You did not have a single moment of relaxing or being calm or just random everyday things. No, this book, scene after scene after action scene, like you had no break whatsoever. So the last thing is the ending, and the ending is kind of obscure in the sense that you're still left with this uneasy feeling in that, okay, I don't know if you want more. A lot of things I can't really say because they might be spoilers, but point is, I did like the ending. I thought it was very befitting of the whole trilogy, and I think it was everything you guys could have asked for such a book and such a series. It is a YA series. Everything is a happily ever after. No, it's just realistic. I don't think it's a happily ever after. I don't think it's a sad ending. I just think it's a very befitting and good ending for such a trilogy and for characters that went through so much in this whole 3 books and all the events that they ended up going through. So since I'm moving on to the spoiler section, I thought I would just say you guys definitely need to pick this book up. This book and series or trilogy are amazing and is amazing. I hope you guys do give it a chance, and even though you guys have not or did not entirely enjoy the first book or thought the first half was really confusing, I do urge you to continue on with this whole trilogy. And yes, now moving on to the spoiler section. If you guys haven't read the book, maybe you should shut this off. One thing to note, I was so frustrated because Noah appears like what? 350 pages into the book. The whole time I was like, where's Noah? Where's Noah? Where's Noah? And then there's a whole thing where apparently he might be dead. I was about to go pull my hair because I needed Noah to be alive. That was the one thing I was so afraid Michelle Hodkin would do, is that she would kill off Noah Shaw, and I'm like, you better not do that. So that's why I said how I loved Mara doing things on her own. Every time she usually calls Noah for help and stuff, and I mean, Noah always gives her space, gives her her independence, and that's what I love about Noah. But at the same time, she always had him to look to, or to look up to, or to look for help to. But in this book, she was pretty much on her own with Jamie and that other girl. And I really, really loved what they went through together as the 3 people without Noah. It was very unique and very different in the sense that, you know, the love interest isn't here, and he's always been there for her in the first 2 books. So I loved how she was able to do everything on her own, and that bathroom scene with that pervert, oh my god. I was cheering her on, obviously. I think the sequence of events were brilliant. The way that everything fell into place was done in such a way that you were surprised throughout the whole book. Everything was so unexpected, and even when you think you got it, you did not get it. So that's what I love about books, when they keep me on my toes and they keep me at the edge of my seat, guessing, trying to figure out what's going on, and in the end you just don't get it right, and that makes me so happy. And this is what I felt while reading The Retribution of Mara Dyer and the whole trilogy, actually. Another thing, I am so happy Noah's alive. Oh my god. Oh my god, you guys don't understand how much my stomach was like flipping upside down. I'm like, I need to find out if Noah is alive, and he is. And I think that in the end, Mara had to make up the final decision. She's the one who helped Noah, and I like to see that in the end it wasn't just him helping her as usual of love interest, male love interest helping the female protagonist. This time it was the other way around, and I loved that. Also, the ending, I loved it. It was a good ending. They ended up together and everything. The only thing I would have loved is that I think the epilogue was set, I think, a couple of months or weeks after the showdown and everything went down, and I really wished we got a glimpse of like 1 year later or 2 years later, because that makes me so anxious to see if they're still doing well and they're still good and they're still happy and everything like that. The plot twists. Turns out Noah's dad is doing all that crap. Oh my god, that I did not expect that ever. One other thing, there's a booktuber friend that I know, and she just hates on Noah because she thinks he's just a plot placement, meaning he's just there to further along the plot without any reason, specifically his nationality, him being British. She just doesn't understand why he's British and everything because it just doesn't add up to the whole plot and it seems random. But in this book you find out that everything started in England when his mom was there studying and Noah's grandmother moved from India to England. One thing to know is that a lot of Indians immigrated to the UK or England or whatever. So it seems everything falls into place and everything fits so well, and it's like Michelle Hodkin thought of everything. So that's why I told her, I'm like, you better continue reading this trilogy because you'll see that Noah being British is not just a random placement in this whole story to further along the plot or make him more appealing, which he is, let's be real. That's why I loved how from book 1 she had things that she just, you know, offhandedly mentioned in book 1 that ties on to book 3 and the big events and the big showdown, and that made me so surprised. She's like a genius in terms of like plotting everything. I feel like even though she had to rewrite this 3rd book, I don't understand how she would have written it any other way because it just doesn't work any other way. So it's such a brilliant conclusion to this whole trilogy. I know some people were mad because Noah appeared like 350 pages in, but you know what? This isn't Noah's story, it's Mara Dyer's story, so I was okay with that, even though I love Noah so much. He's my 2nd favorite book boyfriend after Warner from the Shatter Me trilogy. And they're both, I feel like Warner's British sometimes with the way he says love, but that's not a thing. Let's move on from that. So that's why I love this book. I ended up giving it 5 out of 5 stars. As you can see here, I have a lot of tabs, and not just tabs in the end when Noah Shaw appears, tabs from the beginning. There's a lot of funny scenes here that I loved, especially with Jude appearing. What is up with that? When he left her that message in blood and stuff, that was really creepy and really weird and really unexpected. So in whole, or in conclusion I guess, I think this trilogy is amazing. I don't understand why it did not win any awards in the Goodreads Choice Awards. It doesn't make sense to me, but that's fine. And I think it's adults I guess, or old people can still read this and really enjoy it because everything is done in such a smart way and all the details, everything is just, I think this is just a perfect trilogy for any reader out there. And I definitely recommend it to everyone, and I hope you guys do end up picking it up after watching my not spoiler thing. I guess if you're rewatching this then it's a spoiler. Yeah, so you've already read this book. So pretty much you guys should definitely read this book and this trilogy. It's amazing, it's perfect. Honestly, I have nothing bad to say about this trilogy. And I hope you guys enjoyed this really random, weird book talk of this whole trilogy. Let me know what you guys think about it if you've read it. And that's it. I hope you guys have a nice day. Bye!